Good evening, friends. I am Dr. Madhav, eye surgeon from Jalna. Most of you may be knowing me, but I welcome you all for this webinar, which is first of its kind, as an idea proposed by our president, Dr. Shirish, saying that a lot of people are there who are interested to these sports, but then they are starting these events, and then somewhere down the line, that track is getting lost for any more reason, that they may have the motivation but they may get injured, or for they are okay but then motivation becomes less. So with this intention, we have decided to have the series of this activity as few of the speakers, and especially on the current backdrop where we are finding that a lot of mishaps are happening during the long distance running. So we realized that a requirement of the cardiologist as an expert is also there. So but to start with, मला असं वाटायला लागलं की आपण बरेच लोकांना आरंभशूर असतो, आणि मग आज कुठल्याही महिन्याची 1 तारीख येणार असेल किंवा आता सोमवार आला की मी आता झडझडून कामाला लागणार आहे, मी आता एक्सरसाइज सुरू करणार आहे, अशी एक आपली भावना बनते. आणि मग 9चे 9 दिवस झाले की मला असं खात्री आहे की बऱ्याच घरांमधून ट्रेडमिल असेल आणि त्या ट्रेडमिलचा वापर कपडे वाळत घालण्याकरता होऊ शकत असेल. ते नाही झालं तर जास्तीच चांगलं आहे. But with this, actually, we decided that there should be a person who can motivate all of us to continue and inculcated habits which are good for all of us. So with this brief, I hand over this to our president, Dr. Shirish, to as a welcome address.
Okay, thank you, Madhav sir. Yes. Good evening, all. On behalf of MOS, and it's pleasure to welcome you all for this wonderful webinar. Let me welcome and thank Dr. Pimpridar sir and Dr. Mulmuli sir for their valuable time. Friends, both of them are speaker of national and international repute. Friends, health is a wealth, and no amount of wealth is comparable with a good health.
Yes.
And keeping in this mind, our team of sports committee, headed by Dr. Ambekar sir and Dr. Rushali Patil, and the whole team has designed a wonderful series of webinar which will take us through all aspects of sports and physical activities, right from simple walking to the long distance running, how to prevent the sports injuries, and proper diet, weight loss, etc., etc. So I think this series will be really helpful for each and every one of us. So friends, with this good speaker of international repute, I'm sure that this webinar will be a great success. And without much ado, I'll hand over mic to Dr. Salim Patil. We'll be introducing Dr. Mulmuli sir.
Yeah.
Over to you, sir.
Yeah. So it is a great honor for me to introduce Dr. Nandakumar Mulmule sir. He has done his MD Psychiatry and is Associate Professor of Psychiatry at GMC Aurangabad. He has written 11 books in Marathi on various topics, including the book Cinema Paradiso on 9 Italian movies and 4 articles on Giuseppe Tornatore's Cinema Paradiso, Star Maker, A Pure Formality have been published. He also conducted the first ever stand-up musical entertainment show on the awareness of mental health. He is a regular columnist in leading daily newspapers. His faculty in various conferences in other branches too. Marathi serial based on his stories is very popular, Mana Shuddha Tujhe. His activity on Amuk Tamuk Marathi podcast network is very inspiring and has huge fan following. I have personally seen snippets of this episode, and his talks are so simple, straightforward, and they instantly strike a chord with the audience. There are many webinars by him on YouTube, Sukh Manje Nakki Kai Asto, then also on fear and stress management and so on. We are blessed to be in his august company, and we are really grateful that he will guide us today about Nirdhar Kasa Tikwawa. I welcome him to our webinar and request him to give us valuable advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Dhanyavad. Nirdhar Kasa Tikwawa. How to sustain good habits. How to sustain habits, basically, it's a very important topic in the sense that we are nearing 1st of January. ऑन एव्हरी 1st of January और रादर 31st डिसेंबरला कोणी आठवण काढत नाही की आता उद्यापासून काही संकल्प करायचे आहे. पण 1 जानेवारीला there is a guilt feeling with each of us that we had decided to do some things, and we had some list of some things to do on 1st of January 2024, आणि 25 ची 1st of January येईपर्यंत त्यातले सगळे संकल्प गळालेले असतात. प्रश्न असा नाही आहे, सगळ्यांना समजतं की काय सवयी, कुठल्या सवयी वाईट आहेत, कुठल्या सोडायच्या आणि कुठल्या चांगल्या धरायच्या आहेत. प्रश्न असा असतो की त्या सस्टेन कशा करायच्या. 1 जानेवारीच्या संकल्पामध्ये जर 100 लोक स्वतःला एनलिस्ट करत असतील आणि उद्यापासून मी हे करणार आहे वगैरे, तर एक स्टॅटिस्टिकल स्टडी सांगते की 31 जानेवारीला त्यातले 70% लोक डिफॉल्टर होतात. आपण आपल्या पेशंट्सला 17 गोळ्यांची लिस्ट देतो आणि मिनिमॅलिस्टिक व्हायला पाहिजे प्रिस्क्रिप्शन मध्ये, पण अनेक प्रिस्क्रिप्शननी पाहिलेले आहेत, ही सकाळी दुपारी, ही गोळी संध्याकाळी, ही सकाळी आणि संध्याकाळी, ही फक्त दुपारी. ज्या गोळ्यांची वेळ डॉक्टरलाही लक्षात ठेवणं अशक्य आहे अशा वेळा लिहून दिलेल्या 11 गोळ्या प्रिस्क्रिप्शनवर पाहिलेल्या आहेत. असे संकल्प टिकत नाहीत. हे सगळ्यात मोठं दुखणं आहे. माणसाला बदलायचं असं नाही आहे, त्याला बदलायचं आहे. पण जगातला सगळ्यात मोठा त्रासदायक प्रयत्न कुठला असेल तर तो बदल घडवून आणायचा. वी टेंड टू revert to homeostasis as an organism. Our basic tendency is to maintain whatever we are doing. माणसाला सगळ्यात जास्त दुःख वेदना कुठल्या होत असतील तर बदलाच्या. म्हणून सवयींचा निर्धार, नव्या सवयी आणणं जितकं सोपं तितकं ते टिकवणं कठीण. हा टॉपिक जो आहे तो मी अमुक तमुकवरही कव्हर केलाय सवयी, तो तास सव्वा तासाचा टॉपिक आहे, पण आपल्याकडे तो अर्ध्या तासात आपल्याला संपवायचा आहे. म्हणून मी थेट अगदी थोडक्यात सवय म्हणजे काय, कारण चोराच्या वाटा समजल्याशिवाय चोरी थांबवता येणार नाही. तर सवयी कशा जडतात, वाईट सवयी, त्या चांगल्या सवयीत कशा बदल आपल्याला करता येईल त्याच्यात, हे आपल्याला पटकन समजावून घ्यायचं आहे. म्हणून सवय म्हणजे काय, गालिबचा एक खूप छान शेर आहे, सादिक हूं अपने कौल का, गालिब खुदा गवाह, सच कहता हूं कि झूठ की आदत नहीं है मुझे. म्हणजे सवयी ह्या माणसाच्या अंगभूत तो एक त्याचा भाग आहे. सवयी का महत्वाच्या आहेत याचं कारण फार सरळ आहे. 45% of all the things which we do in a day are because of habits. We habitually do it. सकाळी उठणे, त्याच्यानंतर दात घासणे, आंघोळ करणे, कपडे बदलणे, ठराविक कपडे घालणे, ड्रेसिंग करणे, मोटारीत बसणे, रिव्हर्स गिअर टाकणे, मोटार चालवणे, अशा सगळ्या गोष्टी या सवयीचा भाग आहे. म्हणून आपण आनंदी आणि सुखी आयुष्य घालवतोय, कम्फर्टेबल आयुष्य घालवतोय. कल्पना करा की तुम्ही एखाद्या मित्राकडे गेलात रात्री जेवायला आणि तो जर म्हणाला की इतक्या दूर आता परत कशाला जातो, इथे झोपून जा. ठीक आहे, तर तो माणूस, तुम्ही जर त्या माणसाच्या घरी झोपलात, सकाळी जाग आल्याच्या नंतर तुम्हाला कळणार नाही बाथरूमचं दार कुठे आहे, बेडरूमचं दार कुठे आहे, शॉवर कुठे आहे, बेसिन कुठे आहे, दात कुठे घासायचे आहे, तुम्हाला चाचपडावं धडपडावं लागेल. म्हणजे तुम्ही कल्पना करा की तुम्ही रोजच्या गोष्टी सवयीने इतक्या करता सहजपणे की दे बिकम युअर सेकंड बिहेवियर. You don't have to think about it. Imagine that you have to think that you have to open the car, then you have to put the key, or you have to press the button, you have to put the first gear. मग असं करायचं, मग हा पाय दाबायचा, मग हा दाबायचा, तर कठीण होऊन जाईल रोजचं आयुष्य. टूथपेस्ट घ्यायची, मग ती टूथब्रशला लावायची, कित्येक गोष्टी आपण गाणी ऐकत पुढच्या कामाचा विचार करत 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 असतो, सगळ्या सवयीमुळे करतो. सो व्हॉट इज अ हॅबिट? हॅबिट इज अ शॉर्ट सर्किट ऑफ द ब्रेन. हॅबिट इज हे एक स्वयंगतिक वर्तुळ आहे जे तुमच्या मेंदूनी शिकून घेतलेलं आहे अनेक गोष्टींच्या बाबतीत, म्हणजे तुमचं काम सुकर व्हावं. सी our brain is only 2% of our body by weight and it utilizes 25% of the glucose of body. So brain has to conserve energy. ब्रेनचं टेंडन्सी बेसिकली टू कन्झर्व एनर्जी. त्याच्यासाठी हॅबिट्सचे सर्किट्स तयार झालेले आहे की अनेक गोष्टी तुम्ही सहजतेने आणि विदाउट थिंकिंग कॉन्शियसली कराल. सवयी जर नसत्या तर फार कठीण झालं असतं जगणं. आता मग सवयीमध्ये वाईट सवयी वाईट, चांगल्या सवयी चांगल्या. गंमत अशी आहे की आपला मेंदू चांगली सवय आणि वाईट सवय असा फरक करत नाही. आणि सवयी का लागतात याच्या मागे एक फार साधं ब्रेन केमिस्ट्री आहे, चांगली असो की वाईट सवय असो. हॅबिट्स रिलीज डोपामिन इन द ब्रेन अँड डोपामिन इज द मेन इम्पॉर्टंट सेंट्रल न्यूरो हॉर्मोन विच इज अ फील गुड हॉर्मोन. आपलं सगळं आयुष्य हे डोपामिन निर्मितीसाठी आहे. वी नीड डोपामिन डे इन डे आउट बिकॉज डोपामिन गिव्स अ सेन्स ऑफ वेल बिईंग. डोपामिन नसतं तर माणूस डिप्रेशन मध्ये गेला असता. वन ऑफ द मेन रिझन्स ऑफ डिप्रेशन इज डिप्लिशन ऑफ डोपामिन अँड डोपामिनर्जिक न्यूरो हॉर्मोन्स लाईक सेरोटोनिन. तर सगळ्या सवयींचा मूलभूत उपयोग हा डोपामिन सिक्रेशनसाठी होतो. चांगल्या सवयी, तुम्ही फ्रेश आंघोळ करा, छान वाटेल. तुम्ही एक्सरसाइज करा, छान वाटतं. कशामुळे? डोपामिन, एन्डॉर्फिन्स. तुम्ही लॉंग ड्रायव्हिंग प्लेजर असतो एक, लांब जाता तुम्ही, छान गाणी ऐकत असता, स्टिअरिंगवर तुमचा हात असतो. इट गिव्स अ गुड फिलिंग. दॅट इज बिकॉज ऑफ डोपामिन. वाईट सवयींनी सुद्धा डोपामिन सिक्रेट होतं. तंबाखू खाल्ल्याने, सिगरेट पिल्याने, मोबाईल पाहिल्याने, फेसबुकवर आपल्या पोस्टिंगला किती लाईक्स आले, किती अंगठे. काही मंडळी सकाळी उठून पहिले काम हेच असतं की मोबाईल चेक करायचा आणि मी काल जी पोस्ट टाकली तिला किती अंगठे आले. हे इतकं सगळ्या गोष्टी ह्या केवळ डोपामिन साठी आहेत. चांगल्या सवयी वाईट सवयी मेंदू फरक करत नाही. सवयी जडण्यामागे 4 टप्पे आहेत. ते 4 टप्पे म्हणजे CUEQ, क्रेविंग, रिस्पॉन्स अँड रिवॉर्ड. मी त्याचा शॉर्ट एक फॉर्म्युला सांगतो, CCRR. C इज क्यू म्हणजे एक संकेत. क्यू इज अ साइन विच वी. तंबाखूची पुडी दिसणे, संध्याकाळच्या वेळी जी मंडळ इंटरेस्टेड आहे त्यांना दारूचा ग्लास दिसणे, मोबाईलवर नजर पडणे, मोबाईलच्या मेसेजची घंटी किणकिणणे, फेसबुकवर अंगठे, या अशा सगळ्या गोष्टी हे सगळे संकेत किंवा क्यू आहेत. दॅट गिव्स राईज टू क्रेविंग. यू वॉन्ट टू सी द मोबाईल, यू वॉन्ट टू पुट दॅट thing in your mouth, you want to chew tobacco, you want to smoke, you want to quickly fill the glass and take a peg of whiskey. ह्या सगळ्या क्रेविंगच्या पोटी होतात. तिसरा रिस्पॉन्स, पटकन पुडी तोंडात टाकणे, पटकन मोबाईल सर्फिंग सुरू करणे, या सगळ्या रिस्पॉन्सच्या गोष्टी आहेत. अँड देन यू गेट द रिवॉर्ड. That is a dopamine in the brain. So you feel good. You feel good because of good things. You feel good because of bad things also. Now we come to the crux of our problem. How to convert all those bad things into good habits. एक गोष्ट तुम्हाला सांगतो, ती अशी आहे की habits cannot be destroyed. They can only be replaced. बघा, तुम्ही साखर सोडता, मग तुम्ही शुगर सबस्टिट्यूट घ्यायला सुरुवात करता चहामध्ये. तुम्ही तंबाखू सोडता, मग तो च्युइंग गम सगळ्याला सुरुवात करता. तुम्ही मोबाईल पाहणं सोडायचं आहे, तुम्हाला हाती रीडिंगचं पुस्तक घ्यावं लागतं. हॅबिट्स कॅन ओनली बी रिप्लेस्ड बिकॉज युअर ब्रेन नीड्स द डोपामिन. गुड हॅबिट्स आणि बॅड हॅबिट्स मध्ये फरक काय आहे? देर इज अ व्हेरी सिम्पल डिफरन्स. सवय आणि व्यसन यातला फरक असा आहे की जोवर तुम्ही तिचे मालक आहात तोवर ती सवय आहे. ज्या क्षणी ती तुमची मालक होते, तुमच्यावर गाजवायला लागते, त्या क्षणी तिचं व्यसनात रूपांतर होतं. आपण पाहतो खूप लोक असतात जे मॉडरेट ड्रिंकर्स असतात, जे फक्त मित्रमंडळींसोबत पितात. दे आर मास्टर ऑफ देअर हॅबिट्स. They are not enslaved by drinking. They are not drinking alone. So that is okay. Okay म्हणजे I don't advocate, but then once in a while एखादा माणूस एखादी सिगरेट स्मोक करतो आहे. वन्स इन अ व्हाईल एखादा मोबाईल आपण चेक करतो. वन्स इन अ व्हाईल आपण फेसबुक चेक करतो, किती अंगठे आले पाहतो. तुम्ही ऍडिक्ट जर झाले तर यू कॅनॉट कीप युअर सेल्फ अवे फ्रॉम इट. सो दॅन you are a slave and that is a master. This is a simple difference. Ata we come down to how we can avoid bad habits and sustain good habits. See, gaining new habits is a day's work, but sustaining is very important. मग आता सस्टेनिंग कसं करता येईल? त्याच्यासाठी सवयी का बदलत नाही याच्या थोडक्यात. सवय ही तुमची ओळख आहे. तुम्हाला तुमची ओळख बदलावं लागेल. एखादा माणूस आळशी आहे म्हणतो आपण, एखादा माणूस शूर आहे, एखादा माणूस भित्र आहे, एखादा माणूस शांत आहे, एखादा माणूस नेटका आहे, एखादा माणूस लठ्ठा आहे. सगळ्या तुमच्या जी आयडेंटिटी मार्क्स आहे दॅट इज बिकॉज ऑफ युअर हॅबिट्स. आपण म्हणतो की हा फार नीटनेटका आहे, सकाळी उठल्याबरोबर व्यवस्थित घडी करून ठेवतो, चादर विदर व्यवस्थित जागच्या जागी वस्तू ठेवतो, त्याला ऐनवेळी वस्तू मिळवायला त्रास जात नाही, त्याचं काम मेथॉडिकल असते, रोजचं काम रोज करून ठेवतो. गुड हॅबिट्स बिकम हिज आयडेंटिटी. युअर आयडेंटिटी इज युअर हॅबिट्स. व्हॉट यू डू रिपीटेडली इज युअर हॅबिट अँड युअर हॅबिट बिकम्स युअर आयडेंटिटी. सो यू हॅव टू चेंज युअर आयडेंटिटी. तुम्हाला काय म्हणून ओळखल्या जावं असं वाटेल? तुम्हाला साहजिकच असं अशी आपली ओळख बनवा वाटेल की हा माणूस फिट आहे, हा माणूस अत्यंत काटेकोर आहे, हा माणूस मोजकं जेवतो, हा माणूस कधीही जिम चुकवत नाही. सो यू हॅव टू चेंज युअर आयडेंटिटी. माणसं सवयी माणसांच्या बदलत नाही, कारण ते आपली आयडेंटिटी बदलायला तयार नसतात. तुमची आयडेंटिटी बदलली पाहिजे. सगळ्यात महत्वाची गोष्ट आहे की मॅन इज नॉट मेड फॉर डिलेड ग्रॅटिफिकेशन. हे बघा, चांगल्या सवयींना आणि वाईट सवयींमध्ये काय फरक आहे? तुम्हाला डोपामिन मिळवायचं आहे, तंबाखूची पुडी तोंडात टाकली, सिगरेट पिली, दारू ओतली घशात, पटकन डोपामिन मिळतं. माणसाचं आता ग्रॅटिफिकेशनचा टाइम कमी होत चालला. आता तर अशी तरुण पिढी आलेली आहे की दे कॅनॉट डिले देअर ग्रॅटिफिकेशन. इन्स्टंट ग्रॅटिफिकेशन पाहिजे. 2 मिनिट नूडल काय आहे? 2 मिनिट 2 मिनिटात जेवायला मिळेल, नूडल्स खायला मिळतील. ते चांगले नाही आहेत, पण त्याचा विचार नाही करत. 2 मिनिटात होते हे महत्वाचं आहे. झोमॅटोवाले हे बघा, जाहिरातवाले या सगळ्या गोष्टींचा, शास्त्रीय गोष्टींचा उपयोग करतात. 5 मिनिटात जर पिझ्झा डिलिव्हर झाला नाही तर आमच्याकडनं फुकट. का बरं? कारण माणसाला आत्ता पाहिजे आहे. एखादा माणूस असा म्हणतो की चांगला पिझ्झा मिळवण्यासाठी मी 15 मिनिटं थांबायला तयार आहे, इतकी काही तुम्ही घाई करू नका. नाही, त्या कॉम्पिटिशन मध्ये ते म्हणतात की आम्ही 5 मिनिटात नाही डिलिव्हर करू शकतो, तुम्हाला फुकट देऊ. इन्स्टंट ग्रॅटिफिकेशन साठी माणूस सटावलेला आहे. चांगल्या सवयी ग्रॅटिफिकेशन देतात, डोपामिनही देतात, डिलेड ग्रॅटिफिकेशन. माणूस मूलतः देहाने माणूस झाला, पण मनाने तो पूर्णपणे प्राणी आहे. प्राण्याला डिलेड ग्रॅटिफिकेशन जमत नाही. माणूस उत्क्रांतीच्या टप्प्यावर माकडाचा माणूस झाला आणि माणूस सुसंस्कृत झाला. सुसंस्कृती ही सगळी निसर्ग विरोधी आहे. सुसंस्कृती, संस्कृतीची निर्मिती कशापासून झाली? ऍग्रिकल्चर. ऍग्रिकल्चरल संस्कृतीमध्ये काय आहे? तुम्ही आज बी पेराल तर 9 महिन्यानंतर पीक मिळेल. माणसाने स्वतःवर डिलेड ग्रॅटिफिकेशन लादलं. पण तुम्हाला सुसंस्कृत व्हायचं आहे की प्राणीच राहायचं आहे? प्राण्याला हे हरिण आपण उद्या खाऊया, आज नको, असं वाघ नाही विचार करत. दिसल्याबरोबर ही विल पाउन्स ऑन दॅट बिकॉज ही कॅन नॉट पोस्टपोन हिज ग्रॅटिफिकेशन. We become an animal the moment we cannot postpone our gratification. We must remember, माणूस जबरदस्तीने 3 महिनाभर काम करतो आणि 1 तारखेला पगार घेतो. हे निसर्गाच्या विरोधी आहे, म्हणून हे करणं कठीण आहे, पण ते केलं पाहिजे, कारण तुम्ही सुसंस्कृत झालेले आहात, तुम्ही मानव झालेले आहात. माणूस देहाने माणूस झालेला आहे. माणसाने व्यायामाची गरज नाही. कुठलाही प्राणी व्यायाम करत नाही. वी हॅव टू डू इट बिकॉज कुठलाही प्राणी पिझ्झा बर्गर खात नाही. वी हॅव टू डू इट बिकॉज फास्ट फूड काय आहे? माझ्या लहानपणी मी काही ते असे हे सांगत नाही की माझ्या लहानपणीची गोष्ट वगैरे. फास्ट डायजेशन नाही आहे भाऊसाहेब. निसर्गाला तेवढाच वेळ लागतो. माझं हाड मोडो का मुकेश अंबानीचं मोडो, हील व्हायला 3च आठवडे लागणार आहे. फास्ट फूड हे काय प्रकार आहे? तो पटकन तुमच्या समोर येतो म्हणून इन्स्टंट ग्रॅटिफिकेशन. डायजेशन तर तुझं तितकाच वेळ घेणार आहे ना, तुझं पोट काही उत्क्रांत झालेलं नाही आहे. सो वी हॅव टू ऍक्सेप्ट दॅट गुड हॅबिट्स विल गिव्ह डिलेड ग्रॅटिफिकेशन. मग अगदी आता महत्वाच्या 10 मिनिटात चांगल्या सवयी जडण्यासाठी वी हॅव सीन दॅट देर आर 4 स्टेजेस: क्यू, क्रेव्हिंग, रिस्पॉन्स अँड रिवॉर्ड. संकेत, तलफ, प्रतिसाद आणि प्रतिफल. म्हणजे कृष्णाने किती सांगितलं मा फलेषु कदाचन, तरी माणूस सगळं काही फळाच्या इच्छेसाठीच करत असतो. मग या सगळ्या स्टेप्स अवॉइड करण्यासाठी सगळ्यात पहिली स्टेप अवॉइड केली तर प्रिव्हेंटिव्ह अँड सोशल मेडिसिन. वी मस्ट प्रिव्हेंट. क्यू, संकेत. तुम्हाला वाईट गोष्टीकडे नेणारे सगळे संकेत बाद केले पाहिजेत. हे बघा, जाहिरातदार याचा उपयोग का करतात? त्या म्हणजे मंगलाचे तोरण असल्यासारख्या दुकानावरती वेफर्स आणि तंबाखू आणि याच्या सगळ्याच्या पुड्या सोडलेल्या असतात, माळाच्या माळा. हे आधुनिक जाहिरातदारांचं तंत्र आहे की याला फशी पाडावं. सारख्या मोबाईलवर ऍडल्ट क्लिप्स पॉपअप होतात. का बरं? याची नजर तिकडे जावी, हात तिकडे जावा. हे सगळ्यांचं काम आहे. एक काळ असा होता की सुपारी, पान वगैरे तंबाखू काय खायचा, तर ती चंची असायची, त्याच्यातून अडकित्ता काढायचा, मग तो तंबाखू चोळायचा, मग टाकायचा. आता ती वेळ जाऊ नये म्हणून मंगलाचे पुढे तोरणासारखे दुकानावरती आहेत. वी हॅव टू सी टू इट दॅट वी डोंट फॉल प्रे टू दिस थिंग्स. ती गल्ली बदला, ते दुकान बदला. जिथे एक डॉक्टरची गोष्ट सांगतो, कोविड काळामध्ये सवय लागली म्हणे सकाळी 6 पासून मला स्मिर्नॉफ, मी वोडका प्यायला लागतो, 15-15 ml पितो, पण सकाळी 6 पासून मला सवय लागलेली आहे. मग 10 वाजले की पुन्हा थोडी पितो, मग 12 वाजले की पुन्हा थोडी पितो. मी त्याला म्हणलं, बाबा रे, सकाळी 6ला तुला वोडका मिळते कुठून? कपाटातच ठेवलेली असते म्हणे. अरे म्हटलं, तुझ्या डोळ्याला दिसेल असं जर ठेवलं तर यू आर मेकिंग युअर जॉब डिफिकल्ट. थ्रो अवे ऑल द बॉटल्स. इफ इट इज इझिली अवेलेबल, यू आर गोइंग टू फॉल प्रे. पहिली गोष्ट, संकेत चांगल्या गोष्टीचा जवळ ठेवा, वाईट गोष्टीचा दूर फेका. सिगरेटचं पाकिट विकत घेऊन स्टॉक करू नका, फेकून द्या. दरवेळी तुम्हाला दुकानात जाऊन एक घ्यावं लागली पाहिजे. तंबाखूच्या पुड्या आणून ठेवू नका, स्टॉक करू नका. चांगल्या सवयीसाठी काय, एक साधी गोष्ट सांगतो. सकाळी उठून स्विमिंगला जायचं संकल्प केला. स्विमिंगसाठी काय काय लागतं? स्विमिंगसाठी स्विमिंग कॅप, गॉगल, शॉर्ट्स आणि ती सगळी किट तयार पाहिजे. सकाळी उठून मोटारीची किल्ली पटकन दिसली पाहिजे. सगळं रात्री झोपताना टेबलावर अरेंज करून ठेवा. सकाळी उठून तुम्हाला वेळ लागला तर बाय एव्हरी मिनिट युअर स्पिरिट्स आर गोइंग टू गो डाऊन. काय सापडतच नाही, टोपी कुठे ठेवली आहे. सगळ्या वस्तू समोर ठेवा. समजा कल्पना करा की तुमच्या टेबलावरती तुम्ही पिझ्झा, बर्गर, फास्ट फूड या गोष्टी किंवा भजे तळलेले या गोष्टी न ठेवता फळं ठेवले, काजूची बाटली ठेवली किंवा काय जे असेल ते. तुम्हाला भूक लागल्यावर पटकन तुमचा हात डायनिंग टेबलवर जातो. येता जाता दिसतील अशा गोष्टी जर चांगल्या गोष्टी ठेवल्या, केळ, संत्र, सफरचंद, नॅचरली यू विल पुट दॅम इन युअर माउथ. संकेत चांगल्या गोष्टीचे सहज दिसेल असे ठेवा. एक छोटासा एक्सपेरिमेंट सांगतो. नेदरलँड्समध्ये त्यांनी विजेचं बिल भयंकर यायला लागलं त्या पर्टिक्युलर एरियामध्ये. त्यांनी काय केलं की विजेच्या कंपनीने काय केलं, एक प्रत्येक घराच्या मध्ये एक मोठा हॉल असा, त्या हॉलमध्ये एक मोठं मीटर ठेवलं घड्याळासारखं. आणि तुम्ही जसे लाईट ऑन करता, एसी ऑन करता, जे काही करता, टिक 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 ते मीटर सगळ्या डोळ्यासमोर सतत दिसलं पाहिजे. समोर दिसायला लागल्याच्या नंतर अनेकदा आपण जे निष्कारण दिवे जाळतो ते लोकांनी पटापट बंद करायला सुरुवात केली. अनावश्यक गोष्टींचे मीटर, दिवे, लाईट, पंखे, एसी सगळ्या गोष्टी बंद करायला सुरुवात केली, कारण समोर दिसत होतं सतत विजेचे युनिट्स वाढणार. विजेचे युनिट्स वापरणं एकदम कमी होऊन गेलं. संकेत सहज दिसला पाहिजे, चांगल्या गोष्टी सवयी लागल्या पाहिजे म्हणून सोप्या करा. चांगल्या सवयीचा मार्ग सोपा करा. याचं कारण असं आहे की तलफ आकर्षित करणारी असावी. आरोग्यपूर्ण पण चविष्ट पदार्थ, उत्तम सायकल घ्या, समोरच ठेवा, चटपटीत तयार ठेवा. सुखावह बूट घ्या, जे बूट चावणार नाही, जे घालताना मजा येईल. मनोरंजक पुस्तकं समोर ठेवा, म्हणजे मोबाईलकडे लक्ष जाणार नाही, पुस्तकं घ्या वाटेल. तुमची ओळख फिट माणूस, नेटका माणूस, शांत स्वभावाचा माणूस अशी डोळ्यासमोर एक इमेज तयार करा स्वतःची, की जी निर्माण करण्यासाठी तुम्हाला इन्सेंटिव्ह मिळेल, की पीपल आर रिकॉग्नायझिंग मी ॲज अ फिट पर्सन, ॲज अ गुड पर्सन. प्रतिफल हे समाधान देणारं असावं. इफ यू गो टू द जिम, यू मीट 4 people, यू हॅव गुड युअर फ्रेंडशिप, आणि हे सगळं चांगल्या लोकांचं असावं. नॅचरली भोवतालच्या लोकांचा. सी, मॅन इज अ बायो सायको सोशल ॲनिमल. देर इज अ बायोलॉजी टू एव्हरी मॅन, देर इज अ सायकोलॉजी, and there is a ecological environment of the man which decides his mental problems, his mental stresses and strains. चांगले मित्र भोवताली असतील, जे इन्सेंटिव्हाइज करतील, जे वाट पाहतील जिमला यायला, तर तुम्हाला इन्सेंटिव्ह राहील. अरे उसको मिलने का है, गप्पे मारने की है, गपशप होने की है, एकमेकांशी चर्चा होईल. फिटनेससाठी तू काय करतो, तू कुठला आहार घेतो, काय नाही. Your company should be good. That is very important. You need to have a role model. Very simple thing. चांगल्या सवयीसाठी एक रोल मॉडेल असावा. तो रोल मॉडेल तुमचा मित्र असेल किंवा एखादा सेलिब्रिटी असेल. मला त्याच्यासारखं व्हायचंय. तो करू शकतो तर मी करू शकतो. तुमचा पिअर ग्रुप मधला असेल तर अधिक उत्तम. मग तो जेवढा बॅडमिंटन खेळतो, मी सुद्धा आय विल एक्सेल. I will try to achieve some target in my society, in my club, in my association, whatever it is. माणसं इमिटेशन करण्यामध्ये एक्सपर्ट असतात. मेक अ रोल मॉडेल सो दॅट यू कॅन. सगळे ड्रिंक करणारे तुमचे मित्र असतील तर तुम्हाला त्याच्यापासून अलिप्त राहणं कठीण आहे. तुम्ही त्या मिटिंगला जाऊन बसाल, मित्र चांगले आहेत पण त्यांना ती सवय आहे, तर ते तुम्हाला आग्रह करतील. तिथे मग तुम्हाला नकार देणं कठीण होईल. नॉन ड्रिंकर्स प्रिफर करा. पुस्तकं वाचणारे मित्र प्रिफर करा. आता व्हॉट्सअप हे संवाद साधण्यासाठी असलेलं यंत्र आहे. आता आपण झूम मिटिंग घेतोय, एक चांगली गोष्ट आहे त्याची. व्हॉट्सअपवर चांगले ग्रुप पाहिलेले आहेत मी. असा एक ग्रुप आहे की ज्याचा एक हे आहे, तुम्ही सदस्य झाल्यानंतर तुम्ही दर 8 दिवसाला एक पुस्तक वाचलं पाहिजे आणि त्याचा रिव्ह्यू एक 100-200 शब्दात का होईना टाकला पाहिजे. व्हेरी गुड यूज ऑफ व्हॉट्सअप. संवाद साधण्यासाठी जे माध्यम आहे, त्यांनी जर संवाद तुटत असेल लोकांचा, तर त्याचा काय उपयोग आहे? नेट ॲडिक्शन हॅज बिकम अ डायर रियालिटी. I have visited a de-addiction center in Nashik a month back, and he said that there are 3 patients, youngsters admitted with net addiction. तुम्ही कल्पना करा, आपण किती वेळ घालवतोय नेटवर. आपण किती वेळ, यंगस्टर्स who are addicted to net spend 8 to 10 hours on net. आणि रुटीनली आता आपण चांगल्या गोष्टीचं रेफरन्सिंग वगैरे करण्यासाठी घालवत असेल तर गोष्ट मला माहित, परंतु रुटीनली आपले 3 ते 4 तास सहज चालले जातात नेटवर, काहीही कारण नसताना. आणि ते सगळं साबणाचा फेस आहे, काहीच अर्थ नाही त्याच्यामध्ये. पण वी डू दॅट. मोबाईल दूर ठेवा, पुस्तकं सहज मिळतील असं ठेवा, समोर ठेवा, वृत्तपत्र वाचा, अशा अनेक गोष्टी. रोल मॉडेलिंग इज वन थिंग. इम्प्लिमेंटेशन इंटेशन. आता हा टॉक संपवताना मी एका सगळ्यात महत्वाच्या गोष्टीकडे येतो, विच आय हॅव फाउंड इन माय ओन लाईफ ऑल्सो. मी या सगळ्यातून गेलेलो आहे. मी रोज 30 किलोमीटर सायकलिंग करतो. मी 15 किलोमीटर अंतरावर माझं फार्म हाऊस आहे. सायकलवर जातो, सायकलवर येतो. आय डोंट डू इट फॉर फिटनेस, आय डू इट बिकॉज आय लव्ह सायकलिंग इन द कूल ब्रीज मॉर्निंग टाइम. व्हेरी गुड. तर सगळ्यात महत्वाची गोष्ट म्हणजे आपण सगळे चांगल्या सवयी ठरवतो. आपल्याला सगळ्यांना माहित आहे. आपल्याला हेल्थचे कारण आता सामान्य माणसासाठी समजावण्यासाठी आहे तसे गरज नाही आपल्याला. व्हॉट वी आर लॅकिंग? वी लॅक prioritizing fitness and exercise. I'll tell you one thing. If at all you want to succeed in sustaining your resolution, the most important thing is give top priority to this thing. अरे तू काल जिमला आला नाही का, ते माझ्या मेवण्याच्या भाचीचं लग्न होतं. अरे तू काल जिमला आला नाही ते काय मला रात्री जरा उशिरा झोप लागली ना, त्याच्यामुळे मी टाळलं ते. तू परवा जिमला नाही दिसला, नाही ते थोडस पाय जरा कुचकुच करत होता म्हणून मी टाळलं ते. सगळे बहाणे आहेत. मी परवाची गोष्ट सांगतो. माय एज इज 67. मला एक गुडघा थोडासा ठुणठुण जाणवत होती, तरीही सायकलवर टांग मारली. डाव्या गुडघ्यात होत होतं, उजव्या गुडघ्यावर जास्त प्रेशर घेऊन सायकलिंग करायला लागलो. नेव्हर कीप युअरसेल्फ अवे फ्रॉम एक्सरसाइज बिकॉज युअर बॉडी has some slight pain. See, exercise will always help your body. It will never harm your body unless you are doing harmful exercise. कोण करणार आहे? एक साधारण 5 किलोमीटर चालल्यानंतर माझी ती ठुणठुण गायब झाली. माय बॉडी केम इन टू अ रिदम. If you do regular exercise, your body will always sustain injuries in a better. तुमचं पाय दुखणार नाही, गुडघे दुखणार नाही असं नाही. Age tells upon you. But you will sustain those easily, you will recover more easily. Prioritize. Top priority. मेवण्याचं लग्न असो, कोणाचंही लग्न असो, सख्या कोणाचंही असो, I will not leave my exercise. First thing which I do in the morning. मग आता मला सकाळी 6ला गाडी काढायला पाहिजे, मला नागपूर गाठायला पाहिजे, मला 10 वाजता पोहोचलं पाहिजे तिथे. मी 5ला उठेन. मी हे करतो. 5ला उठेन, अर्धा तास एक्सरसाइज करेन आणि मग शॉवर घेईल आणि मग गाडीत बसेन. मला 5ला निघायचं का, मी 4ला उठेन. मग आदल्या रात्री मी डिसिप्लिन घालेल की मी 9लाच झोपेन. सो आय हॅव गॉट ॲडिक्वेट स्लीप. प्रायोरिटी जोवर तुम्ही व्यायामाला देत नाही तोवर तुम्ही स्वतःची फसवणूक करत आहात. तुम्ही फक्त मोठ्या गोष्टी करता, काय ते जमतच नाही. लास्ट थिंग, एक आपला एंड पॉइंट ज्याला म्हणतो आपण, always be forgiving with others and with yourself also. हा जो निर्धार आहे याच्यात अडचणी येतील. या निर्धारामध्ये कधी कधी तुम्हाला तो टिकवता येणार नाही. एखाद दिवस इकडे तिकडे होईल. ऑलवेज फॉरगिव्ह युअरसेल्फ. नेव्हर थिंक ऑफ परफेक्शन, बिकॉज one thing that comes in between you becoming a good person is perfection. अति परफेक्ट या जगात माणूस नाही आहे. फार परफेक्ट होण्याची गरज नाही आहे. परफेक्शनच्या मागे माणूस लागला की ही कॅनॉट बिकम अ गुड पर्सन. मधून मधून चुका होतील, मधून मधून ड्रॉप होईल, मधून मधून तुम्ही नाही करू शकणार, मधून मधून तुम्हाला एखादा गुलाबजाम तोंडात टाकायचा अनावर मोह होईल. ठीक आहे, स्वतःला माफ करा. अति परफेक्शनच्या मागे लागू नका. प्लसेस शुड बी मोर दॅन मायनसेस. 4 वेळा तुम्ही चांगले वागला, एखाद्या वेळेस तुमच्या हातून चूक किंवा वाईट वागणे किंवा जुन्या सवयी रिव्हर्ट करण्याचं तुम्हाला मुभा आहे. वन्स इन अ व्हाईल इट हॅपन्स. बट ओव्हरऑल जो ऍव्हरेज आहे तो तुमचा, यू शुड प्रोसीड टुवर्ड्स द गुड हॅबिट. तुमचा प्रवास सतत चांगल्या हॅबिटकडे पाहिजे. आणि हा प्रवास आनंद. हे बघा, तुमचं वजन समजा 70 आहे, तुमचं रिअलिस्टिक गोल ठेवला पाहिजे 70चं वजन 68 करायचं 1 महिन्यामध्ये. ओके, हे 70चं 68 करण्यामध्ये जे जे उपाय तुम्ही करता आहात ते उपाय करताना तो प्रवास आनंददायक पाहिजे. यू शुड बी हॅपी डुईंग दोज थिंग्स. इफ यू आर डुईंग जबरदस्ती, इफ यू आर डुईंग इट फोर्सिबली, it's not going to be of use. उद्दिष्टापेक्षा प्रवास महत्वाचा आहे. शेवटचा शब्द बोलतो. गुलजार साहेबांना एकदा विचारलं की क्या मंजिल मायने रखती है या सफर मायने रखता है? तो गुलजार साहेब असं म्हणाले कि ना मंजिल मायने रखती है ना सफर मायने रखता है, हम सफर मायने रखता है. आपके साथ कौन लोग हैं? क्या आप उनकी कंपनी एंजॉय करते हो? जिंदगी का सफर ये सफर ही मंजिल है. राह बनी खुद मंजिल, पीछे रह गई मुश्किल, साथ जो आहे तुम. आपल्या सोबत जे लोक असतात त्यांच्यासोबत एन्जॉय करत करत आपण एखादी चांगली सवय अंगीकारण्याचा प्रयत्न केला तर ती सवय निश्चित तुम्हाला तुमच्या उद्दिष्टापर्यंत घेऊन जाईल. सोबतचे लोक चांगले पाहिजे, प्रवास एन्जॉय केला पाहिजे, तर तुमचं उद्दिष्ट निश्चित सफल होईल, तुमचा निर्धार निश्चित टिकेल. थँक्यू.
थँक्यू सर. फारच छान सर. फार फार ग्रेट भाषण दिलं. म्हणजे अगदी प्रत्येक गोष्ट मनाला पटेल असं. म्हणजे आता हे रेकॉर्डेड आहे तर माझ्या मुलांना ऐकवेलच मी आता हे उद्या. फारच छान सर. थँक्यू सो मच. एक प्रश्न होता, डज गोल सेटिंग प्ले अ रोल इन दिस, म्हणजे निर्धार ठेवण्यामध्ये गोल सेटिंगचा रोल काही आहे का?
गोल सेटिंगचा रोल आहे, पण यू शुड नॉट कॉन्सन्ट्रेट ऑन द गोल इटसेल्फ.
ओके.
बघा, मा कर्मफल हेतुर्भू माते संगोस्त्व कर्मणी. कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्थितीचा दुसरा श्लोक फार महत्वाचा आहे. कृष्ण अर्जुनाला असं सांगतो आहे, पहिला हाफ जो आहे, मा कर्मफल हेतुर्भू, हेतू फळाचा हेतू त्या कर्माला चिटकवू नको. डिटॅच युअर सेल्फ फ्रॉम द गोल, एन्जॉय द जर्नी. मी 70चं वजन 68वर आणलं नाही, मी बेकाम आहे, मला जमत नाही, मी फेल्युअर आहे. दिस इज रॉंग. वी शुड नॉट डू इट, nor our children should do it as far as marks, exams and achievements are concerned. तुमच्या आनंदाची सांगड तुमच्या उद्दिष्टाशी घालू नका. डू नॉट अटॅच युअर हॅपीनेस टू युअर गोल अचीवमेंट, बिकॉज द मोमेंट यू डू दॅट, you are setting a negative mentality saying that you may not achieve it, so then you become a failure. No. 19-20 मराठवाड्याच्या भाषेमध्ये 70चं 69 झालं, ठीक आहे, पण प्रवास आनंदाचा झाला पाहिजे. मुलांना 100 पैकी 90 मार्क मिळाले पाहिजे. मला फिजिक्समध्ये फिजिक्स शिकणं ही आनंदाची गोष्ट असली पाहिजे की 90 मार्क मिळाले नाही तर मी वाईट, मला काही जमत नाही, मी फेल्युअर आहे, मी स्पर्धेत राहू शकत नाही, हे महत्वाचं. प्रवास आनंदाचा. म्हणून सेटिंग अ गोल इज अ गुड थिंग, but don't attach your happiness to the goal. So goal setting is very important because it gives the direction to our energy. We have something to look forward.
Right.
But then the journey towards that goal should be playful, happy, and relaxing.
येस सर. आता मी 4-5 प्रश्न काढून ठेवले होते, पण तुमच्या लेक्चरमध्ये ते ऑलरेडी तुम्ही ऍड्रेस करून ते नील झालेले आहेत क्वेश्चन्स. मी अजून एक प्रश्न काढला होता की हाऊ डज युअर सराउंडिंग्स अँड एन्व्हायरमेंट इम्पॅक्ट आवर एबिलिटी टू स्टे ऑन द ट्रॅक. पण जसं तुम्ही सांगितलं की चांगले मित्र, चांगलं सराउंडिंग, चांगले इक्विपमेंट, टेबलवर चांगलं फूड ठेवा, म्हणजे फास्ट फूड न ठेवता फ्रुट्स, हे सगळं तुम्ही सगळंच ऍड्रेस केलं सर. यू रिली ग्रेट. आता तुम्हाला येऊन भेटणारच आहे मी. भेटणार आहे.
थँक्यू.
राधिका, ऑडियन्सचे काही क्वेश्चन्स आहेत?
हो, नाही अजून इथे नाही दिसत आहेत. मला तरी नाही दिसत आहेत इथे.
ओके.
ओके देन. प्रश्न नसणे याचे 2 रिझन्स आहेत. एक म्हणजे सगळं समजलं किंवा दुसरं काहीच नाही समजलं. माझा स्वतःचा ऑनलाईन वर फार विश्वास नाही आहे. याचं कारण असं की आता आपण ते म्हणू नये, परंतु आपल्याला व्यवधान इतर डिस्टर्ब करतात ऑनलाईन मध्ये. समोर 25 माणसं असले तरी मला बरं वाटतं. मी आंबेकरांना सांगितलं की असं आहे, पण ते म्हणे नाही, आता इट्स आवर रुटीन दॅट वी डू ऑनलाईन. इट्स ओके एनिवे.
So I think we conclude with this.
Madhav sir, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. I think we can. Hello. Yeah. I think we conclude on the first topic of the day, And now I request and I thank Dr. Mulmule sir. But I think, sir, you can, since you are also fitness freak, you can see what Pimpri sir wants to say about these musculoskeletal issues. So I request Dr. Radhika to introduce our next speaker.
Good evening, everyone. That was a very inspiring lecture by Dr. Nandu Mulmule. May I introduce our next speaker for today, Dr. Milind Pimprikar. Dr. Pimprikar is a renowned orthopedic surgeon and a sports medicine expert from Nashik. He completed his education MS from University of Pune, and he finished his fellowship in joint replacement from Germany. He has 10 indexed journal publications to his credit. His teaching experience includes he's a mentor for 1 year fellowship program at arthroscopy at MUHS University and professional development assistant for MSc in sports and exercise medicine, University of Bath, UK, since 2019. He has many awards and prizes to his credit. He has participated in many conferences, workshops, and masterclass uh, all over the world as a faculty, namely in countries like UK, China, Germany, India, and Australia. He has also been invited as a faculty and a presenter at many national level conferences of orthopedics and sports medicine. His interests include he's a team member of RAM, that is Race Across America Cycling. He's the first Indian team to finish. He's a member on performance enhancement in Nashik District Athletic Association. He's a life member of Nashik District Cricket Association. He's a chief medical officer for Asia Pacific Car Rally International Sporting Event. He was actively involved in training and treating athletes in many sports events, fitness partners, and treating physician to U Sports U Mumbai Kabaddi team and under 19 football team. He's a chief medical officer for Nashik Police Marathon 2016 to 18, and he's a fitness partner for local cycling clubs. With this, I invite our accomplished speaker, Dr. Milind Pimprikar, for his lecture today on endurance for long distance running and avoiding injuries. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Madhav sir and the association for this wonderful opportunity. I would just share my screen here. I hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, good. So after that wonderful talk on the psychoanalysis of the habits and how you inculcate the habits, I'm sure Mulmula sir must be knowing about the theory of Prochaska, which was basically designed for the smokers to have a change and the phases of change where goal setting remains one of the part of this good habit of keeping oneself fit. Of late, as Dr. Madhav said, that yes, there are so many doctors who are now running marathons and marathons and marathons after marathons, and that has kind of become their habit. So if you remove H, it still remains a bit, as Dr. Mulmule said. If you remain A, it remains bit. So you cannot get away with habits, and marathon running also has become habit because it secretes a lot of dopamine and endorphin once one completes either a half marathon or a full marathon. So endurance running amongst doctors is very, very known and it is very popular nowadays. For your information, India is has a largest population of runners in the world, but we have minimum medals across the endurance events in the world. So we are running, we are making an attempt, but probably we are not making a mark or we are excelling at the international level. So, what should be the agenda of today's talk of endurance runners or long distance runners? So, we have to answer a few questions like why do we run? How to run efficiently? What are the benefits of running? What are types of training when you undertake a marathon or an endurance run? and how do you run injury free? So, injury prevention. And these are some of the basic topics on which today's talk is based. So, when you have to answer why do we run? So, we run for passion, we run for recreation, we run for competition. We also run for peer pressures. So there are so many doctor friends which I see that they would go to the marathon scene to be just there because of fear of missing out. So we have to decide first, why do we run? Do we run for fitness? Do we run for medals? Do we run for competitions? Or we just run to keep oneself or ourselves fit? Because this is a beautiful slide which says that a 12 minute mile is just as far as a 6 minute mile. So a mile remains a mile, whether you run it in 12 minutes or 6 minutes. But then when you run it in 6 or 12 minutes, which is called as increase in the volume, also speaks about how well you train for the said event. So to just briefly tell you what are the injuries which are sustained by these endurance runners, most commonly they are patellofemoral pain, which is anterior knee pain. You get ITBFS, that is called as iliotibial band friction syndrome or iliotibial band tendinitis. Stress fractures of the tibia, stress fractures of the distal fibula, and more often than not, stress fractures of the metatarsal bones are the commonest running injuries which we see, including some high impact knee injuries in middle aged athletes or middle aged doctors, which come to us with meniscal tears. So we have to understand injury pattern. So whenever we talk of injuries or prevention of injuries, we have to understand what is the biomechanics of running. Running actually is a natural instinct. We all have not learned to run. Instinctively we run. So why do we have to study about the biomechanics? Because everybody runs differently. And you cannot really change pattern of running or train a particular person in a particular way to run efficiently. What we have to do is we have to at subtle levels modify their running actions and their running speeds so that these people can run more efficiently. So how it is done? So this is a lab setting. It is not something which is a rocket science, but there are two videos which are placed at right angles to each other, and the athlete runs on a treadmill with certain sensors placed on the body. I'm talking about this biomechanics briefly because then we would be in a better position to understand as why these running injuries they happen. So these both cameras are placed at right angles to each other, and they are collecting information regarding in a coronal plane and in sagittal plane how the body movements are happening. There are certain markers which are placed, and these are the markers which are placed at different levels, like C7 spinous process in the midline, posterior superior iliac spines, anterior superior iliac spines, greater trochanters, lateral joint line, lateral malleolus, so on and so forth. So what do we understand from this? So these markers are going to tell us in a graphical way at the end when the software analyzes these videos to understand how these points are moving in relation to your running pattern. So whenever these studies are done, initially it was thought that these studies should be done with an athlete first warming up for about 6 to 10 minutes to a target speed and then start analyzing. Otherwise, the chances of errors are more. So what do we look for when we see these cameras? Just one point to ponder, you really do not need professional cameras nowadays to be deployed to understand the kinematics of running. But what one can do is have two smartphones placed at right angles of the treadmill, and then it can record you from a coronal plane as well as from the sagittal plane. And you may not even have markers, but analyze those videos in slow motion, which facilities are readily available in a smartphone nowadays and can analyze one's running patterns. So, side view, what do we look for? When a person runs, similar to the gait analysis, you have to understand how the foot is striking. What is the inclination of foot angle at the initial contact with the ground? What is the tibial angle at loading response? How much is the knee flexion? How much is the hip extension? Is the trunk leaning forward or backward? Is the athlete or a doctor or a professional running overstriding? And what is the vertical displacement of the center of the mass? All these things needs to be recorded. From the back view, you have to see the base of support, how the heel is going, what is the foot progression angle, pelvic drop, and heel whips. I'll come to that one by one. If I show you this video here, this is an athlete running. So this is a slow-mo which is being recorded. And now you will see this is from the front view. You can see and analyze how the foot is striking. So you can see the midfoot is striking. It is not the heel which is striking. The hands are moving in tandem. The center of mass, the pelvis is not moving much. The knee is getting with the ground in a 20 to 30 degrees of knee flexion. And you can see the foot progression angle is slightly outwardly placed. So this is from the front. In the similar way, this is a from the side, and you can see the center of mass is not getting displaced much. So these professional athletes, if they are analyzed in this way, and if how one can know how these athletes are running, we can modify our own methods a bit to prevent the injuries. There are certain additional variables which can be recorded on a treadmill, like auditory signals, shaking of a treadmill. Somebody thumping onto a treadmill is not really foot striking well. So when you're running on a treadmill, a person running on a treadmill next to you should not be in a position to understand, or should not be in a position to hear the noise of your foot stamping. And you should also be aware of your cadence. Now, foot strike patterns. Whenever a marathoner runs or a long distance runner runs, there are three foot strike patterns. One is a forefoot strike, second is a midfoot strike, and third is a hind foot strike. Out of these, forefoot strike is usually on the toes, and this is meant for sprinters. So you'll find the spikes in short distance runners, they will only have spikes on the forefoot and not on the heel. Midfoot strikers are middle distance and endurance runners, and hindfoot strikers are ideally not supposed to be the runners. You should not run with a hindfoot strike because it is fraught with a lot of dangers or sports injuries. So that's the way how you analyze the forefoot and midfoot strike. Here you see it's a forefoot strike. Here you see is a midfoot strike. The footwear, the athleisure, what you wear while running, everything matters when you deal with the endurance running. This is the foot inclination angle. You can see this is a right foot inclination angle, and this foot is landing onto the lateral border, which is not a good way to actually run an endurance run. So this is a tibia angle at loading response. You can see there are different angles. This is in full extension. This is on the outer border. This is slight flexion. The C is the way how one should run with at least 20 degrees of knee flexion while you land. Because if you land with an extended knee, then the chances of injury, stress fractures of the tibia is way larger than when you land with a knee in flex. This heel strike pattern is a no-no for a runner. You can see here, this is a heel strike. So with the first ground contact, the heel is getting in touch with the ground. And this will give rise to lot of injuries. And if you study all these literature, it will tell you that these athletes or runners are more prone for stress fractures or for what is called as shin splints. This is a knee flexion during stance. Now here you can see that the foot has struck, and now there is a progression which is going to happen. So here you must know what is the knee flexion during the stance phase, and this flexion will also dictate the injuries in a endurance runner. Hip extension during late stance. You can see here there is a forward lean, and this is a proper extension. So if your back doesn't extend, then all the loads they are carried to the knee and the leg, and the back has to compensate. If the back doesn't compensate because of the poor core strength, then the chances of injuries are more. This is a trunk lean. So normally your trunk should lean in the way of progression. So this is the forward lean which is expected for an endurance runner. These are the markers which you can see, and this is actually not an ideal position to have an endurance running. So for you who are interested, can record your videos while running and analyze them on these lines. And if you could really improve upon them, will definitely increase your efficiency while running and may improve your timings of half or full marathon. Overstriding. So this overstriding also increases chances of tibial stress fractures. You can see that whenever you stride, your stride should not be too long, and that is the way how we look for the cadence as well. The vertical displacement which I was talking about is when you run, then there is one exercise which is actually given for the runners, and that is called as bounding. So when you're doing a bounding exercise, it's a plyometric exercise which is actually for muscle strengthening and coordination. So if you are bounding while running, then it's not a good idea because the vertical displacement of the center of the mass is more and the efficiency of running will come down. So with this basic knowledge of biomechanics, if you're running a marathon, so if you're running or preparing yourself marathon for a marathon run, it may be a half marathon or a full marathon. To run this efficiently, we must plan the run. We must maintain a training schedule. We must build the aerobic fitness. We must incorporate strength training and plyometrics. We should have a nicely fueled body and we should keep ourselves hydrated. So, when we talk of these principles, we should also know what are the mistakes when we run long distance or marathons. So, there is one principle called as the Milo principle, which is a principle of progressive overload. So, there is a small story that this guy in Greece used to run with a calf on his shoulders and progressively went on taking that calf on the shoulders day by day, day by day, day by day, till the bull grew to its own size. So, if you're doing it day on, then what is going to happen is this is going to be progressive overload, and this progressive overload is going to make you more fitter for the particular given task. So, nothing comes suddenly. Rome was not built in a day, are the sayings which we always talk about. But then, when it comes to ourselves, we are suddenly taken up by a surge of adrenaline to participate, and then we do what should not be done. Second is the 10% rule. So you should always increase the training volume by 10% per week. Nobody is a super human. So if you're going to start running, you start with 30% of your max, or which is called a sub maximal effort, and then every week you should increase your training volume by 10%. So if you're running 1 kilometer, if you're starting with 1 kilometer, then you should increase it by only 10% at the end of the week, and you should not increase it further. Then there is something called as interference, which is strength training, and this is submaximal and plyometric. So we always feel that I'm a runner. Why do I have to go to the gym? If I'm running well, I don't need to go to the gym. I don't like going to the gym. But no, the strength training and plyometrics, these both will increase your efficiency to run. So how do you really increase this strength, and where do you want to increase the strength? So running muscles are standing erect muscle is the gluteus maximus. Running muscles are quadriceps, hamstrings, gastrocnemi, calf, gastrosoleus, because it absorbs the tensile energy and foot progression angles. So all these muscles along with the core should be strengthened if you want to run efficiently, and it should be a form of your training protocols. The next thing is periodization. This is again a very important aspect. So when you periodize, you always start with a strong foundation. So once you start with the base phase, if you are planning to run a marathon, which is about 6 to 12 weeks, where you develop your aerobic fitness. So light runs, light cyclings, any rhythmic activity which builds your aerobic fitness. Second phase is a build phase, which is for 4 to 8 weeks. Here you work upon your strength and speed. So at least once a week you should have a session where you're going to undergo strength training for the major muscles in the body. Then there is a peak phase where you reduce the volume but sharpen your intensity. So you keep the intensity same, and you reduce the volume of exercise, but the sharpness of exercise remains the same. And the last comes, that is the recovery phase. The most important thing is the race day fallacy. So, race day fallacy, many people are so pumped up with the concept of running a marathon that they do something which never did during the training phases, like trying a new sports drink, taking caffeine, not sleeping well, keeping hungry, not getting hydrated well. And if you do that, then it's a sure shot recipe for failure on the race day. Second key point in running a marathon is pacing. So you're going to have your run paced very, very evenly. So you should have an even pace strategy. Nowadays, you see people who are called as pacers. So these pacers actually are placed there for a reason, and I'll come to that further. So when you pace your marathon, if you're running a 41-kilometer marathon, then there is something called as negative split. So your first half of marathon should always be slower than the second half. Suppose, for example, if you're running a half marathon in 100 minutes, you can run in 100 minutes. Then the formula should be to keep a even pace strategy that you double it to say 200 minutes. And plus you add 20 minutes as a professional runner. So it comes to 220 minutes. If you divide that by 42 or you divide that 21, averagely it will come as 5 minutes per kilometer. So all big runners or elite runners, they split their run. As suppose you're running a full marathon, then first 5 kilometers, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, that is a half line. That's into negative split. And then you pace your run. So these, when as long as they're evenly paced, you will give your best. If the surge of adrenaline comes in, that with the competitors you feel that, oh, there are so many competitors passing by, then probably you're a novice runner, where the psychological factor would come in. This psychological factor of somebody surpassing you is very difficult to actually overcome when you're entering a competitive sporting competition. So, but this one has to overcome. And pacers are those standing with flags, taking, getting you to know what is the speed at which you are running. And this is important because otherwise you'll have to calculate, have a look at your garments, have a look at your equipments to understand at what pace you're running. And this is a cognitive factor. This is a cognitive task. And this cognition takes away a lot of glucose, as Mulmule sir said. So here you want glycogen for your muscles, not for your brain. So don't think. So run with the pacer. So pacer is running with the pacer speed. You have to match the pacer speed and run with the pacer. That will ensure that you're running at a proper speed. So here there was a study which was conducted which said that every 1 minute ran too fast in the initial half, lost 2 minutes in second half. So here what there is a phenomena called as hitting the wall, and this hitting the wall is because of a lot many reasons. One of them is psychological. Be adequately fueled. There is a concept of carbohydrate loading. I'll not go into the details of it, but carbohydrate loading is important because your muscles, they need glycogen, they need ready energy till the ATPs are utilized, and then the resynthesis of ATP happens to provide you energy. You have to have carb loading, and there are different strategies in literature for this. You have to have very good hydration. So hydration should be balanced so well during the training periods that you don't have to feel like peeing at times, nor you should feel dehydrated. So it is always said that when you are carbohydrate loading and hydrating, you should drink before you feel thirsty. When you start feeling thirsty, you have already missed the train. You should you should you should eat carbs or sports drinks as a strategy during running every 1 hour, about 30 to 60 grams in any form. It may be a chewing gel, it can be a sports drink, or whatever you're used to, but you should follow the routine which you followed in your training. If you're trying something new, then again a recipe for failure. And hyponatremia is the next thing. Everybody sweats in a different way, everybody loses salt in a different way. So you should find out for yourself what kind of sports drink suits you, and you must try that in your training periods and not on the day of the race. Then comes what is most important is strength and conditioning for a marathon. So these are certain exercises which are basics and advanced for these kind of runners. Madhav sir, please tell me I'm overshooting the time. Huh? I'll stop there.
No, I think you can continue for a while, not an issue.
Okay. So,
Sir, can you
Seven
go
minutes more.
one slide back?
Sorry,
Can you go one slide back?
one slide back. Okay.
Yes.
So these are the exercises actually which are basically meant for your basic and advanced strength training. So apart from cardiac endurance, if you have to reduce the chances of injuries while running, you need to have strength and conditioning strategies as well. So gym work is a key component of training plans with significant health benefits and injury prevention along with performance enhancement. And the gains are absolutely there, and there is nothing to argue. So this is how it works. Strength training causes changes in the muscle fiber, increases the cross section, it improves the mitochondria, which is a powerhouse, and it improves your VO2 max and energy output. So it improves your aerobic fitness. So the question, as I said, that why should I go to the gym and not just run? So strength work makes you faster on the bike as well as on the run. Then it will also reverse your loss of muscle, which usually you'll see with endurance athletes. It will also improve your bone health, specifically the bone density, because moderate weight bearing exercises are the exercises which are very important for bone mineral density. How often? Ideally 3 sessions per week, but one session should also suffice. So in a training schedule, you should have 4 sessions of your aerobic activity, maybe cycling, swimming, or running, one session of strength, and one day you have to have a period of rest for recovery. There should be at least 2 days gap between the same muscles to be worked out. So these are certain key exercises which are beginner strength exercises. Their sets and repetitions are set. So you should always start with 6 to 8 repetitions and 75 to 80% of the one repetition maximum. So a maximum weight which you can lift is called as one repetition maximum. Start with 75 to 80%. Gradually increase your repetitions to 15 to 20, and then you increase the amount of weight. Do not immediately increase the amount of weight, and the rule of 10% will prevail here as well. If you're doing some core stability exercises like planks, then it should be 30 seconds to begin with, and the plank holding plank period should increase to 1 minute. So these are certain exercises called as goblet squat. I'll run you through certain videos, you can see them. So imagine you're sitting on a chair, keeping tall, you don't collapse forwards, drive your knees out, and you'll see this is called as goblet squat. This is absolutely for the lower limbs, and you'll find here that the athlete also develops the lower limb explosive strength by doing these exercises. This is a lateral squat. So lateral squat, again, imagine sitting on a chair sideways, work slowly, and then you do it alternately with each leg with the kettlebell, trying to teach the floor. That is our sports medicine department in our hospital, where these videos have been recorded. Then the third exercise is a stiff leg deadlift. One of the most wonderful exercises for the lower limb strength, hamstrings, and your lower back. And that's the way how you perform the deadlift. So you see, the knees they remain straight, feet are shoulder breadth, buttocks are pulled back, and the kettlebell goes down with the back erect and comes up. So this also gives you a strength for your abdominals. That's a plank, which is a coordination exercise. That is the way how you do a plank. Hold the plank, let the body not go to the floor or touch the floor. This will develop your intrinsics of the back and transversus abdominis for the core strength. This is a side plank, which is performed the similar way. And you can also progress to advanced planks like this once you are done or thorough with the basic plank exercises. Planks are very important exercises for your core strength, and they are absolutely necessary for runners. Barbell back squat are exercises as advanced training. This should be done very carefully because this carries a lot of weight. You can see the knees are at higher level, the hips they have to go down, and you are literally performing a squat with the barbell there. It's a wonderful exercise for advanced runners. These are exercises for lat dorsi and interscapular strengthening. This can be taken up with cyclists as well because they are going to hold a position of cycling. So they will also help the cyclists along with the runners. These are certain exercises for uh, advanced advanced core strength and conditioning. That's a trap bar lift. All these exercises are there on YouTube. You can go through them, and these are some of the exercises like split squat, which is meant for back as well as for the leg muscles. So these exercises are certain exercises which will help a runner to perform better. And in this situation, if you're talking about the injuries sustained, these injuries can be taken care if you have a proper training plan. The diet remains undoubtedly the most important part of your training. At the same time, working onto the metabolism, like we find a lot of bone marrow edema syndromes with vitamin D deficiencies, calcium deficiencies, insufficiency fractures, and these athletes and professionals like doctors running marathons come back to us with a lot of stress fractures, having horribly low vitamin D levels, and you have to deal with them by supplementing them with vitamin D and calcium, and sometimes even further medication. So, to conclude, biomechanics of any sport is important to determine performance. Biomechanical analysis will provide insights in injury pattern and its prevention. Endurance running tests the cardiac as well as the musculoskeletal fitness. Strength training and conditioning is an integral part of training plan. Adequate hydration, carb loading, pacing the race, athleisure wear, running shoes, and the surface on which you run have significant impact when we speak about endurance running. So I thank you for your attention, and I'll be open for questions if any.
Dr. Radhika, you can start.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Pimprikar, for such a detailed lecture. Actually, I had a set of questions, I think, but you have covered them all, including, shoes from famous brands. I had questions like that, and you already answered the question. One question I would like to ask you is, how long should you wait till you recover from a sports injury to get back to? What is the ideal time?
So nowadays there is a protocol which is called as police protocol. Initially, this used to be a price protocol. So P protection, R rest, I ice, C compression, E elevation. So any sports injury used to run with this protocol. Recently, in British Medical of BMJ, British Medical Journal, they have come up with a protocol called as police protocol, where R has been replaced by OL. So P is protection, OL is optimal loading, and then everything remains same. So instead of a complete rest, now we tell our athletes who can optimally load their limbs, maybe lower limbs, or for example, ankle sprain. So initially we used to put these patients into casts. Nowadays we hardly cast anybody, or we should not cast anybody, because active and passive movements has got a beneficial effect on ligament healing. So nowadays we tape ankles, and we encourage these athletes to optimally load their ankles whenever possible in a painless manner. So there is no set point in terms of days or months,
Okay.
but whenever possible. So presently we are working with a functional medicine. We don't want to put people at rest. We don't want
Yes.
to have people lying on their couches and beds. We want them to be up and about and working. So this optimal loading principle has changed the outlook towards sporting injuries. Although sporting injuries cannot be generalized. So if you have an injury which requires rest, well, it will require rest. And more often than not, for most of musculoskeletal injuries, the period is actually 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. See, now you were telling about the repetitions of the weight. Now there are two schools of thought. One says that you increase the weight and reduce the repetitions, and second school says that you decrease the weight and increase the repetitions. So, what is a better option available? Whether
So,
you should.
very good question. See, it depends on what you want. If you are a bodybuilder and want to participate in a competition, you'll have to lift up heavy weights with lesser repetition. So the concept of one repetition maximum is very important. If I have to develop my strength, the muscle strength, and I don't want a muscle hypertrophy, then I would work with the lesser weight, more repetitions. At the same time, I have to wait till 20 repetitions. I can't be doing 50 repetitions with the same weight. So once I reach 20 repetitions, I have to increase the load. So that is the cup carried, progressive overload. So if you don't progressively overload, then you don't improve. Then you'll hit a plateau. So both schools are right, depending upon what you want to do.
That means for the long distance runner, you recommend that less weight with more repetitions.
Yes, of course, yes.
Because nobody want, as of now, I don't expect that we are going into the footsteps of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, we are not. So if you don't want to pump the muscles, lifting heavy weights actually does not carry much of a meaning.
Yeah.
So larger
No,
weights,
because
lesser
yeah,
repetition, called as pumping, isn't it? So if you pump, when you pump, there is a muscle hypertrophy. There is a difference between hypertrophy of the muscle and strength of the muscle. Maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger's strength and your strength may be the same while punching a bag. Correct.
okay,
But his size of the muscle is heavy. So there are certain principles like blood flow restriction now. So if a muscle is getting atrophied, then we ask muscle to work against the deprived blood flow. So when a muscle is deprived of a blood flow, it tries to work harder to get the blood flow, to get the nutrition. It's a very simple. It's called as BFR, blood flow restriction. We use it in ACL rehabilitation.
okay.
Sir, I have one question. The resting pulse in these athletes is quite low, almost bordering to bradycardia, 40 or 42. So, is it a good sign, or should be worried about it?
Exercise induced bradycardia is a good thing.
Okay.
That indicates that the cardiac output is more.
Okay. So,
The cardiac output
cardiomegaly.
is more. No, I'll
Hmm.
tell you. Cardiac output is more. That
Hmm.
is true.
Yeah.
So that talks about a good aerobic fitness.
Okay.
Correct.
Right.
But in athletes,
Hmm.
something called as athlete's heart is a
Hmm.
cardiomyopathy. So it
Yes.
is recommended that those who run a lot of marathons,
Yes.
साताऱ्याची पण पळाले, पुण्याची पण पळाले, मुंबईची पण
Hmm.
पळाले,
Hmm.
असे इको करून घ्यावे रेग्युलरली.
Acha.
Okay.
And that is one reason what Dr. Madhav was saying, that
Hmm.
these are called as SADs, sudden arrhythmic deaths.
Yes.
You have to get your ECGs done to understand if you have WPW syndrome, if you have
Hmm.
some ECG abnormalities, you have rhythm abnormalities. So these
Okay.
people, you find them dropping dead while running.
Okay.
And you drop dead because of exhaustion. So collapse
Right.
at the finish line.
Hmm.
And that is where the whole training part comes in. So these
Right.
SADs are very common, but these
Okay.
are usually into athletes who have some pre-existing cardiac ailment. So
Okay.
screening is very important. Our
Yes.
doctors, they start running at the age of 40 because till 40 they're busy settling their families.
Hmm.
And then
Yes.
they suddenly realize now I have become overweight and I have to run or I have to become physically fit. And then that adrenaline, many number of times I receive a lot of doctors with stress fractures who are trying to train for marathon, and then they have to go back, and it is absolutely depressing because they start with a lot of zeal, and then there is a sudden setback, and it
Right.
takes a lot of effort then to come back to the league and start running again. So
Okay.
adherence, this is again a
So,
psychological concept.
you suggest that we should get an echo done every year or so?
Every year you should do it. Anyways, after
Yes.
50, you must get your workups
Right.
done. So why
Okay.
not get an eco done? If you're running too many marathons,
Hmm.
or somebody now, few people they run every day, 5 kilometers every day, 8 days a week. They say that it's like meditation to me.
Hmm.
That's not a good idea.
Hmm.
If you're running for health, then
Hmm.
might as well follow those protocols.
Right. And what is the limit, sir? How many kilometers these runners should stop at? Because people are running 21, 42, 50 ultra, and comrade 90 kilometers. So it depends on the person's fitness or
Depends on how you have trained yourself.
okay. So
If you have
right,
trained enough for a
right.
comrade, if you're trained enough for ultra, like I have said, I was part of the team
Hmm.
for Race Across America, which is an endurance cycling event.
Right, right.
Two friends they participated into it. I was one of the crew members. I didn't cycle there. But
Okay.
then when you're training for a particular thing,
Hmm.
like in our center, we have as yet trained about dozen of Ironmen.
Hmm.
So when we train them, we,
Hmm.
we have to give them a protocol. If you
Right.
go online, there are so many online Ironman training programs.
Yeah,
But
they. I think they
start doing it
train.
yourself.
They train according to the heart rate, the pace, the zones. I think they get on the
Exactly.
Garmin. Yeah.
There are certain zones of aerobic exercise.
Yes. Yes.
So see, let me tell you two, three very basics.
Hmm.
These are all concepts which have come from what is called as sports sciences, right?
Ah, hmm.
Now, sports sciences research happens in the lab. So
Okay.
there is a qualitative research, there is a quantitative research, but it happens in the lab.
Right.
Whether that research extrapolates onto the field is yet
Correct.
answered in
Correct.
very many quarters.
Right.
The logic should prevail.
Hmm.
So
Correct.
do we really work according to the wearable devices which we wear, like garments? The answer is no. And you cannot monitor that. So you have got to learn the principles and try and
Hmm.
apply them. So today I have spoken about principles.
Right, sir.
How an individual program should be will be
Hmm.
highly individualized and tailor made for every individual.
Yes. And you mentioned a very important thing, sir, the sodium. My husband frequently says sodium to podium because sodium is so important for first two half Ironman. He didn't take adequate sodium. He got severe muscular cramps in back muscles also. He couldn't cycle for a few minutes. So that took a toll on him for the on the timing and such. But sodium was a very important thing, I think.
Hyponatremia is not good. So
Yeah.
cramping usually happens because of dehydration.
Right.
Anything,
Radhika,
Radhika, you want to? I
audience
think,
questions?
but then see, if you notice one side of the paradigm of Usain Bolt in less than 10 seconds of the 100 meters running, to ultra marathons and comrades and everything. What is your opinion overall? That because most of the people are doing for the many times it is noticed that they do it for the social media. So, what is your opinion that the human body is cut for the runners like Usain Bolt, or it is like for the comrades, or the most of the people are in between this all? What you say? Because चांगल्या सवयी नसल्या की लोक काहीतरी करून बसतात.
सो आता
As Dr.
त्याच्यामध्ये
Munwale was telling.
त्याच्यामध्ये तुम्हाला सांगतो की मी कोविडच्या आधी 11 पॉडकास्टचं एक सिरीज केली होती. सो मी तुम्हाला लिंक शेअर करेन किंवा ते पॉडकास्ट शेअर करतो विच वॉज ऑन फिटनेस. सो इट वॉज वाय आय रन अ मॅरेथॉन किंवा ॲथलीजर स्पोर्ट्सवेअरवर स्पोर्ट्स अँड फॅशन. सो स्पोर्ट्स आणि फिजिकल ॲक्टिव्हिटी केलं होतं मी ते पाठवतो तुम्हाला. आता हे दोन जे
Definitely.
एक्झाम्पल्स आहेत हे जे दोन एक्झाम्पल्स आहेत युसेन बोल्ट वर्क्स ऑन इन्स्टंट एनर्जी वाया ATPs. तो एरोबिक फिटनेसकडे लक्षच देत नाही. त्यांनी अनएरोबिक फिटनेसकडे लक्ष दिलं पाहिजे कारण ही हॅज मोर ऑफ फास्ट ट्विच फायबर्स. सो ही टेक्स ऑफ अँड फिनिशेस. So, in a sprint, your ATP or glycogen stores in the muscle, they get over in 6 seconds.
Right.
So, endurance event, it is absolutely different. So, here you train your body to utilize energy in an economic way. So, fueling is very important. How you understand and deal with your energy requirements. So, aerobic याच्यामध्ये काय होतं, they are slow twitch fibers. They don't have to act too fast. Now, can you convert these fibers from one to another? It is very difficult. So you are born with it. And that is why the role of genetics is coming into sports sciences. Genetically,
Yeah.
you can know whether you are more fitter for a throwing sport, a running sport, or a jumping sport. And that is being practiced at all high level centers now.
Okay.
Because of same thing, I just wanted to know because most of these long distance and these runners are from African continent.
Yeah.
So has it been studied somewhere that what makes them into so fast runners as well as the aerobic runners?
So they are not fast runners. They are evenly
You
paced,
said
constant runners.
okay.
They are not fast.
So,
Correct. Second, if you see in Maharashtra, Adivasi area of my district has got a lot of endurance runners. Monica Athre, if I name them few, is winner of Thane Marathon thrice.
Yeah, long distance.
Monica Raut was the first 10,000 meters Commonwealth medal winner for in women's category. So these all come from a hilly area. This is a Harsul. So she was called a Savarpada Express then.
Yes.
There has to be something which relates to their lifestyle, their food habits, their need. Hilly areas now they even don't have facilities like medical needs or whatever. They have to climb hills, go down, and work innumerable miles to get to their own needs. So whether this socio-economic and geographic factors also play, we don't know, but they must be playing, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. But does it mean that the human body is cut for the average distance running of about, say, max 10 to 20 kilometers or anything you want to
Human
change?
body is not meant for running.
Yeah.
Human body is meant for locomotion, and locomotion to find food. Then we acquired running because we wanted to catch prey. Correct. So
Yes.
running is an innate skill, but that skill has evolved after walking. So four-legged animals became two-legged, the locomotion started, then the running started, and sports sciences came just about 3 decades ago.
Spartacus did long time back.
सर तुम्ही निगेटिव्ह स्प्लिट बद्दल बोललात ना, म्हणजे सेकंड हाफ मध्ये जास्त स्पीडनी पळता येतं, तर
बरोबर.
निगेटिव्ह स्प्लिट म्हणजे सेकंड विंड का?
नाही नाही नाही
नाही ना.
निगेटिव्ह स्प्लिटचा अर्थ असा आहे की ह्या ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम मध्ये जेव्हा तुम्ही ट्रेन करत असता तेव्हा तुम्ही तुमचा पेस असा प्लॅन करा की जिथे युअर फर्स्ट, म्हणजे थोडक्यात स्टार्ट स्लो.
अच्छा.
बरोबर.
म्हणजे एनर्जी कन्झर्व करायसाठी.
सो स्टार्ट स्लो मध्ये, म्हणून तुम्ही म्हणलं ना, एव्हरी 1 minute यू रन फास्टर, यू आर लुझिंग 2 minutes ॲट द एंड.
बरोबर.
मग एलिट रनर्स काय करतात, तर ते पेसिंग स्ट्रॅटेजी ठेवतात. स्पोर्ट्स सायन्स वाईज बेस्ट स्ट्रॅटेजी कोणती आहे? इव्हनली पेस स्ट्रॅटेजी. इव्हनली पेस म्हणजे काय, आपला हा जो कॅपोट जे आहे ना, तो मॅरेथॉन रनर, त्याचं किपचोगेचं तुम्ही हे बघा नेटवरती जाऊन, त्याचं 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 all are 14 minutes.
Correct.
So he has evenly paced his speed, still finished in a record time.
Yes.
157.
सगळीकडे 159 I think or 57.
Somewhere between.
So हे असं इव्हनली जर तुम्ही पेस केलं, नथिंग लाईक इट. समजा तुम्ही तेवढे एलिट नाही आहात, अमॅच्युअर आहात, to see to it that you conserve energy for first half.
Right.
Does not mean कासवासारखं पळा. So you decide a pace for yourself, but see to it that you conserve a lot at the finish line. तिथे जाऊन धापा टाकू नका.
Right.
बरोबर. नाही तर मग शेवटचा रन तुमचा नेहमी स्लो होणार. सो सुरुवातीला लोक तुम्हाला सोडून पुढे जात आहेत, सो त्यांना चिअर करा, कारण शेवटी तुम्हाला त्यांना क्रॉस करायचं.
I think that's the correct strategy. But I think it was a very nice eye opener for all of us,
Yes.
because in the current context, people do run most of the time for the social media.
Right.
And 10% people are the genuine runners, as Pimbekar sir was telling. They start suddenly at the age of 40 and then they realize now. Anyway, but I think it was on behalf of MOS. Are there any questions or should I be moving on this thing?
The audience is there.
Pardon?
The audience wanted to know about the carbohydrate loading before marathon running.
Yeah.
So त्या strategies varied असतात actually. Some are advocates that if you're running a full marathon, then for 3 days you should do a carb load.
Yes.
Few people, they say that 24 hours prior you should do a carb load. During a run you should have every hourly 30 to 60 grams of carb. So तेच मी सांगितलं की don't think of taking carbs. You should take carbs at regular intervals if you are entering this kind of run. Now, how many milligrams per kg? Again, there is a lot of variation there, but because it also depends on how much you can consume, isn't it?
Yes,
and what kind of carb you can consume. So it has to be very individualized. These are only gross parameters which are given. But for a full marathon, you should carb load for 3 days.
Dal khichdi, sir.
That reminds me one more. No, that reminds me one more thing, Pimpri sir. Because 3 of us from Jalna had gone for the Leh marathon.
Yeah.
And we did it within less than 20 hours of acclimatization. Probably we would have hit the bucket.
Yeah.
I don't know. We all had survived cleanly. We came back very peacefully. But all three was, one was a physician, one was the surgeon, and third one was myself. And we reached Saturday morning at 10 and started running at Sunday morning 6. I don't know how far are we justified into all this.
You're not justified. You should not do it.
Yeah, I should not have done it.
Again,
We would have hit the bucket.
Live with dopamine, for dopamine, it's very hilarious. It is very, what you say, you get elated by once you have finished it. But then we had been to Leh, and one of our friends in Pangong had to be put on oxygen without running.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not an acclimatization. So you read a chapter from sports sciences, environment and sports.
स्पोर्ट्स सायन्सेस काय आहे सर? काय आहे? पुस्तक आहे का?
नाही.
मग काय आहे ते?
Science is a science. मी त्याच्यामध्ये पोस्ट ग्रॅज्युएट डिप्लोमा केलाय स्पोर्ट्स अँड
ओके.
स्पोर्ट्स सायन्स इज अ अपकमिंग ब्रांच ऑफ मेडिसिन नाव.
राईट.
त्याच्यामध्ये you may not be knowing, but below a particular temperature there is no international marathon which happens.
Okay.
Cold and marathon, extreme hot and marathon. So there are temperature limits set by IOC, that is International Olympic Committee. So if the temperature is below X, say, or higher than X, then the event is cancelled.
Okay. No, because Seychelles, one of my colleague had gone to Seychelles.
Yeah.
And that was too humid that particular day. And they had faced the music of the humidity there.
Yes. At the same time, exercise at high altitude, deep sea diving, we all have learned in our Guyton and Harrison, Kayson's disease. So these everything, all exercise physiology is covered. And we have to be aware of this as medicos. You can't be running a marathon without getting acclimatized. You did it. Very good. Nice to see you back.
No, we would have hit the bucket. Anyway. So are there any questions or we move forward?
We move forward. Yes.
Yeah. So may I take this privilege on behalf of Maharashtra Optical Society as an organizer for the first webinar on the series about the fitness and the human body. From the president's desk, as well as me as an organizer and secretary, Dr. Piyush, my colleagues, Dr. Radhika and Dr. Mrs. Patil. I thank the audience as well as today's two elite speakers, Dr. Mulmule sir and Dr. Pimprikar sir from Nasik. And we are planning our further webinars in next 1 year time duration till Dr. Shirish is here as a president. And your suggestions as our own colleagues are very much invited so that we can organize our seminars and the webinars in a better way. So with this, shall we conclude? And good night till our next webinar.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pimprikar sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Shirish.
Good night.
Yes.
Thank you,
Very good.
Ambedkar sir.
Yes.
Radhika.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
छान झालं आपलं.
Yes, actually, it should be a whole day program.
Yes, खरंच
So,
खूपच छान.
Mr.
आणि
Jain,
त्यांना
when
किती
it is
detail.
will be available on the YouTube, because that are lot. I was receiving a lot of messages from my runner colleagues.
Rahul, please stop recording.
Rahul, unmute. Yeah.
Recording in progress.
Recording,
Rahul,
yeah, I think
Still being recorded.
Rahul must have left. Anyway, I think when normally they put it second day on the YouTube or it is there always.
it is
Will have to be edited.
available within our.
Okay, that is fine. So we leave the meeting now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Good
Fine.
night.
Okay, good
Thank
night.
you. Thank you.
It was
sir.
nice initiative. Was
Yes.
I appreciate your doing this.
Thank you, sir.
All
Thank
good.
you.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
I do appreciate it.
Yeah.